Have you ever felt completely lost on whenever you're trying to figure out how an algorithm may work or understand it or even the time complexity of it? Well, don't worry, you're not alone. I and many other people have also felt that way of not really quite understanding or comprehending different ways of solving algorithms. So that's why I've come together and I've created a series called Algorithms in Action. It's where we go over different algorithms and we explain the time complexity of different various solutions for that. So without further ado, today we're going to be going over the contains duplicate algorithm, where we find there's a duplicate within a given array of numbers. Let's get started. All right, now that we're over here on my VS Code, you can see that we have a couple things on here. We have a JS file called contains duplicate. Ignore all the other files. These are for later videos or previous things that we've done. So we have two functions, and if you can't tell, we're going to be going through the algorithm where you go through a list of some sort or an array, and we want to find out true or false. True if there is a duplicate, and false if there are no duplicates. Duplicates meaning, and this is just for an array of numbers, so meaning if one is equal to the other one. So if we have, for example, 2 ones in the list, then that's true, there are duplicates. If there's just no duplicates, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no numbers equal each other, then there's no duplicates, false. So there's a couple ways we could solve this. We could go the nested for loop route, or we could do the hash set. So we're gonna go and explain the nested for loop first. So I dropped this down and I'm going to uncomment all of the contains duplicates. So we have a couple different test cases here. We have one where there's a duplicate at the end of the array, one where there's a duplicate at 3 points or 3 indexes of the array, then different indexes of the array, and then one without any duplicates, right? So we should get true, 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 and false. So if we look up here at the code, we got this function called contains duplicate nested for loop or nested loop, which takes in a parameter called nums, which is going to be a list, right, of, or in this case, we're JavaScript, so an array of numbers. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a for loop over this, and then on each index, we're going to do another for loop over the entire array. So what it's going to do is it's going to kind of look like, okay, well, here we have I is going to be equal to 1, right? Let's just use this as a test case. Well, then it's going to loop, it's going to hit this other for loop. And what we want to do is, because I already equals 1, or is at the index of 1, then we want to basically, well, okay, so nums at I is going to equal 1, right? So I is just the index. Currently I right now is 0 on the first loop, right? So I equals 0. So what we would do is we don't want to compare the same one to it. So if we were to do this and we would just set this equal to I, well, then this is going to be basically the same thing as comparing, 1 to 1, because if we set j equal to I, then it's going to start at 0 and it's going to say nums at 0 is equal to nums at 0. Well, obviously the index, the number at the same index, so the number at index 1 is going to be the same as the number at index 1, right? It's kind of redundant. So what we do is we take that I and we add 1 to it. So just increasing its index, moving it over 1. So on this loop, it'll start over at 2, right? And what we'll do is we'll say, okay, now is 1 equal to 2? If it is, then return true, because we don't even need to do anything else. We don't need to loop through the rest because we already have a duplicate. But if not, then it's just going to go and it's going to loop and increment j, turning it from a 1 to a 2, which is going to put it at this index. And remember, I up here, we're still on the first iteration, so it's still 0. But j is going through and looping, right? So then we're just saying is 1 compared to 4, and we're just comparing 1 to every single one of these, right? And then when this loop ends, it's going to go and increment I, and then I will become 1, and then we'll do the same thing. So then it'll say is 2 equal to 4? No. Is 2 equal to 5? No. Is 2 equal to 1? No. And it'll just keep doing that. But obviously, if we're using this test case on the first iteration of the second for loop, this will basically be a returns true because the last index is 1 as well. And this right here, this algorithm is going to be O of n, because this actually grows as the number or as the size of the array grows. Reason being is because we have to loop over everything, right? And this can be not the best because maybe we want, there's a better option, which is O of 1, which is constant time, right? So that's where this hash set comes in. And if we run these really quick, go up here and run these, you see we get true, 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 and false, just so you know that the code works the way it should. So we're going to comment this out. We're going to uncomment this, and then we're going to drop this down and undrop this. So it's a little bit less code, right? If we compare them, there's no double for loops.
There's no nested loops. And it seems like we're creating a set, right? So those of you who don't know what a set is basically a list or an array, and they kind of look like this, right? They kind of look like an object, but they're not. And the cool thing about sets is even if I were to put 2 6s in here, whenever I log this out, we would only have 1 6 in there. So you can only have unique values in a set. And so the reason we want to use a set in this scenario is that things like lookup and insertion into a set is O of 1, right? So no matter how big your input is, it's still always going to be the same time. So the lookup time is the same as O of 1, and the insertion time is the same as O of 1, meaning that it's constant. So we create a set here, and it's an empty set currently. And so what we do is we loop over the nums. And so if the num there's a method on a set called has. So then has just means if this set has this number. So we say nums at I, which on the first index would be 1. So if the set has 1, then we've seen it already, right? But if it doesn't, it's obviously on the first loop going to skip this. So then it's going to add it. So dot add will add this number, which is 1 in this case on the first iteration because I is 0. So nums at 0 will be 1 and it'll add it. And so then if we loop through again, if it's a unique value, it will just add it. But anytime where it's where it already has a value, then that's how we know it's already been added once, because it starts out empty. There's no other way. So, and then if it is in there and it has it, that means it's been seen already. So then we just return true. If not, we return false, meaning there are no duplicates. So if we run the code, you'll see we get the same thing: true, true, false, true, and false. And so yeah, this is going to be O of 1, right? O of 1 lookup and time complexity. So those are just 2 ways that we could solve this contains duplicate algorithm. There'll be a link in the description to the LeetCode, and so that way if you want to try it out yourself, you can try it in a different language. You can. I just chose JavaScript because I love JavaScript. So yes, I'm that guy. But without further ado, I want to appreciate you for watching. Thank you so much. These videos are meant to be short, concise, and to the point. That way you understand. Keep a lookout for a course that I have coming up. And yeah, if you could join the Discord in the description down below. We're looking for a lot of people to join, just growing our community. And also, if you can, please leave a like and a comment about maybe something that you liked about the video, or something that you want to see in the future, or something that you dislike, so I can make the videos better. And yeah, thank you so much. And don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.